All right, well, thanks for coming. People are up.
Yeah.
I came from the West Coast, so this is like 3 hours earlier for me. So it was easy for me to stay up, till 1 or 2 last night, but getting up in the morning is a lot tougher. So I'm Kevin Ryan, and I made the Incredible Machine. So
Follow that.
away we go. So this is, okay, I started in 76. I talked about this last night. Went to Berkeley in junior high. They had a mainframe, little terminal, played Guess the Animals, like, ooh, computers are neat, that was my first introduction to them. And then the high school got a Wang computer with a little cassette thing, and I made games on that in BASIC, and that would be 77 to 79. And then I went to the University of Oregon, and I got an Apple II finally after a few summers of working, and made games on that. I published a game with company in Eugene, and then Damon Sly and Jeff Tennell founded Dynamics, and they knew about me, so they asked me to come on as a partner. Came with them, we made a bunch of games. We did Arctic Fox for the Amiga, for EA, and then we did stuff with Activision, and then we almost went bankrupt, and then almost, Sierra saved us, yeah, and Sierra bought us. And Sierra Online had a lot more money, so it made it easy to fund stuff. And then we did these adventure games that you see there. And then, let's see. Okay, this is 1990 now, so this is before the Incredible Machine. It was in 91. Jeff had this concept for a Vivarium game to do. And he gave it to me, the little concept, and I worked up a big, long design for Vivarium. And it was kind of a cool thing. It was a 3D world where the guy would move around in it, and you get satellite views, and you give them behaviors and stuff. And I had tons of screens like this. You could do all this different stuff with the Vivariums, and they'd run around and have their personalities, and they could talk to each other, and they could pass knowledge. And the idea was we're going to use modems and stuff, so they could like spread messages. So I could like update stuff by having one Vivarium talk to another, and if you uploaded the modem, it could like spread through the world and do stuff with it. And a genetic lab, they're all governed by genetics, so I did a lot of research on that. And there was an artificial life conference in New Mexico, and I read all that stuff. And so I spent a bunch of months on this, and it didn't get the go-ahead. It was like, and it was cool, and I wanted to do it. And so after that, I did this little 3D toy thing, and that got the go-ahead. And it was not something I really wanted to do. I mean, so I quit Dynamics, and I went and talked to Tony, who was running it. It's just like, I'm going to go off and do my own stuff and leave. And Tony took me to the Oregon Electric Station. It's a really fancy restaurant in Eugene next to Amtrak, and it has dining cars. And he's like trying to talk me into staying stuff. And it was kind of like this. It was, it was, now, I'm not Jesus, and Tony's not Satan. I like Tony and stuff, but it was like, I was like, no, I'm not going to come back for the money and stuff, because I'm not quitting because of the money. I was going to go off and do my own thing. So I took off. That's why I told him, I'm gone. And then he sent out the email that said, after 7 years of incredible input into Dynamics, Kevin has decided to take a leave of absence from Dynamics to recharge his batteries and get ready for another 7 years. He was going to take at least a month off. So he gave me a month off, but I was gone for good, and he knew that. It was this Thanksgiving. So I go and visit my parents and stuff and do a vacation. I come back and I get a phone message from Jeff Tennell. And while I was gone, this happened. Jeff left. Didn't leave Dynamics, but it was the impetus. He formed his own little small group. Because after Sierra had bought us, Dynamics, 10 people, 12 people, 15, maybe 20, smaller group, right? But once Sierra buys us, they can pour money in, so you can grow. So the company's getting a lot bigger. And it kind of changes the culture a little bit. So Jeff called me, and he talked me into coming back to go with his little group. And then it was kind of like, do whatever you want. What do you want to do? And he was like, how about the Incredible Machine? And that was originally like this Commodore weird little tank machines moving thing that on the Commodore 64 that they had pitched to EA in 1985. And it was like, I'm not really interested. And he said, how about if you do something like a Rube Goldberg thing, call it the Incredible Machine? And it was like, yeah, that sounds interesting. So I went to the U of O library, University of Oregon, And I got a Rube Goldberg book, and I started looking at them, and I just pulled a bunch down the other day. And I was looking at them to see how you could do stuff, and it was like, I realized, I haven't actually looked at these, I was looking at the elements, like how can I turn, this is pretty grim, isn't it? It's like, oh, jeez. So I was looking at the elements, figuring out how I could do it, and I'm looking at a whole lot of this is actually in the text, for the cartoons he did. Oh, by the way, if anyone has questions as I go along, just interrupt me. So I went through a bunch of them, and you can see reoccurring elements. He used the pulleys a lot, and there's this stuff, but it also has the characters and everything. So I'm looking at all these things, and it's like, how am I going to make this into a game? It was, thought, can I make this work? And over the course of a few months, this is March, I figured out I'm going to make physics. I'm going to do the polygons. So everything in the Incredible Machine is just polygon. Actually, I have, this is the balloon from the Incredible Machine. It's just a polygon shape, and that's the cage. So everything was polygons underneath the surface, and I wrote the collision code and the physics so that they're all reacting to each other. But what gets drawn is the artwork matches, the borders, the polygon stuff in here. Actually, they do the art first. I make sure my polygons match the stuff as they went around. So this was the timeline. I quit in November. I unquit mid-December, and then I kind of worked on the design. And at the time I'm working on the design, I'm also thinking of the coding part too, because there's like a trade-off between the two. And it's kind of nice because when I do the design, I kind of know what I can do programming-wise. I know what's going to be hard. I know what's going to be easy. And I know what's going to be a challenge or not. So I can adjust the design if I need to make it implementable in the time that I want to do it. So this is kind of rough because it's been a long time. And then I kind of worked on physics and collision code from April to May. But at the same time, I'm implementing parts. And as I'm implementing, it's kind of organic. It's like new ideas will come, so I'll throw out some stuff. It's like, this is not working and this is working and stuff. So it was really an organic process going along, doing stuff and changing it. And I did all the puzzles, almost all the puzzles. And that started getting really hard because, yeah.
So I'm looking at your timeline, and it looks reasonably planned, but was that just kind of how it went? Because you said it was pretty organic.
I had a ship date. You want to hit Christmas. This is not the era of Steam. Let's see, it's floppy disks. So they're gonna, they're printing up hundreds of thousands of floppies and boxes and all that, and they're sending it to the store. And Christmas was, you miss Christmas, you miss a whole ton because a majority of their stuff's at Christmas. So you want to get it done by Christmas. So it's organic, but I have that deadline in mind. So and I throw stuff out. If you need to, you toss it.
Wait a year and
see
if it was still relevant and then release it.
Yeah, they would release it other times of the year, but it's not going to do as well. Oh, and at the time I did, the budget on this was $37,500. So it was a tiny budget. I actually took a royalty on it and hardly got any salary, and it turned out to be worked out okay in the long run. It was a risk at the time. I think they were paying me $1,000 a month maybe for my salary, just token amount and stuff. I don't quite make that on, now I make a little bit more of that on Steam right now. Steam's tough. I have games on Steam and so many things. Okay, so here, the team. Jeff was the producer, so the process and stuff. So when I rejoined, I worked from home. So I'd come in once a week and show them what I had done. And we had a couple artists, and they would give me the art, and I'd take stuff and I'd do stuff and I'd come in and show it to Jeff. And we had it was a small team. So there are a couple artists that's giving me the art to do, and Jeff is just kind of like giving me design feedback and stuff. I come in and handling the main business stuff, that's going on with it, and interfacing with Sierra, with Ken Williams, and then Gene Rubenstein, and who was a lead QA person. That we had a QA department. Finally, in the early days, it was just us that were developing, doing QA and stuff. So at this point with Sierra, we had a QA department that could test stuff. Okay, and this is the design at March, and it's just a rough idea of what I wanted to do as I figure it out. So the overview partly is you're selling it to the Ken Williams because he's approving stuff and everything. So a little overview. What is it? 286, 12 megahertz, 570K of memory. Yeah, old stuff. You're worried about memory. You want to fit on one floppy, so you're not doubling the cost of the floppies and stuff. Yeah, I bet. Yeah, that was another worry. That see, I didn't know how fast is this going to go, and I'll get to that because I didn't use floating point. It's too slow. I used an integer in the code. So, okay, gameplay screen. Yeah, I was just looking at this, and it's like I did. Okay, page flipping and stuff. We didn't have hardware acceleration or anything. You're just writing to the screen, and so I figured out if this was EGA because I wanted to have higher resolution, 640 by 480 instead of 320 by 240. So I couldn't use VGA, so I could only have 16 colors in the thing. So I figured out the gameplay screen, I could do page flipping. I had a video memory, so you're drawing here, and this is what they see, and then when the vertical blank comes, you switch. But the bottom part of the screen where the little numbers are rolling, that didn't page flip. It just sat there, just updating. And I had to do that because of memory constraints. There wasn't enough for me to go EGA full screen like that. And we did it to get better resolution on the parts. And the artists actually, they're working with constraints, EGA, and they did a good job, getting me what I needed. Yeah, exactly. And I was looking at this, and it's like the line compare register and the VGA card will use the split, the vertical blank, and obviously I knew what that meant when I did it, but I was looking at it, it's like, what was I doing there? I did something. Okay.
Especially with VGA, I'm not sure with VGA, you can actually define like arbitrary screen modes.
Yeah, and I was messing with some weird screen modes to make it work at the time. So, and then here's the element. So this is in the design, and this is before I'd done stuff. So I have density I used, mass I used, friction I used, strength did not use that, switch didn't use, button didn't use the pulleys, use the fuse, and other stuff. So I kind of had a general idea of wanting to do the parts. And this is the part list. And I actually haven't cross-referenced this to what actually went in the game, but this was the initial parts that I was going to do in the game. Oh, and I'm going to have this online, so there's a place if you want to see the all these things and look at them. I have a link to it, and then this is it. And I'm working out sizes, and before I actually get to it, I'm kind of roughing it out. Tech stuff I have in my mind. The coding part I kind of had down more. What I wanted to do. This stuff is more, you have to like run and see how they interact and like what's going to work and stuff. So I didn't fill out any of this, and I never did. It's just, you tweak values. You like do stuff and see how it feels, and you tweak the values and stuff. And that's just a few of them. So, and then for each part I did I did have water. I don't know what I was thinking. Water would have been really hard. It would have like gone one frame every 5 seconds if I had tried to, yeah. So, but that's one of the ones where you dump it, right? It's like, I don't have time for this when I actually get into it, and I need to ship. So, and plus it's like, I don't have to do that work, so it's easy to drop.
Your lists look like, they remind me of those Time Life animal cards that you can
yeah.
Like you get a box and they'd send you 10 new cards every
Yeah, right, yeah, I got some of those. So,
yeah, I remember.
So this is the conveyor belt, multiple sizes. So I did this for each of the part. You can see it does stuff, pulls, and I'm still figuring stuff out as I go along in each part. The fan, that's another thing. SimCity had come out a little bit before that. So I had played, isn't it a cool game? And so like if you look at this, it's powered if it's something that's electric is in the cell next to it, which is kind of like SimCity, you had your neighboring cells and stuff. So my first concept I was going through, I was thinking cells and stuff where you put them in. And everything was on 16 pixel boundaries. And then as I went along, I realized like the bowling ball or anything that is not static that can move around, you can just place it anywhere. And I moved away from the cell stuff. For static parts, I kept it on the 16 byte because it made it really easy to line stuff up. You want smooth surfaces and stuff. And so, you're thinking people are going to use this. What's going to make it easy for them to use? On the cat. And that was the other thing with Rube Goldberg. I noticed, it had lots of whimsy and personality. So I thought, I want physics. I want whimsy in there. So I put parts in there that they still work with physics, but then I gave them like eyesight so they could react to each other. So the cat could see, the fish or the mouse and go and chase it. And I was just looking at this and I saw that it would run away from the mouse if there was a magnifying glass between it and the mouse. And I actually didn't do that. I wish I had. But I did this. I looked at it. It's for other people. I don't think I actually came back and looked at this when I actually started doing stuff.
I noticed cat push things off of tables.
Oh yeah, yeah, there's lots of weird physics. There's something where once the alligator would like keep opening and closing his mouth and stuff.
So it was a little morbid as well because
Kids would do really horrible things with it. I'd see some of the stuff. One of them made a mouse machine gun with like they made the mouse and well, then they grabbed a kind of fan and it was like, and I thought, well, it's cool, but wow. So then this is early. I like to lay out. I see all the screens, so I want to lay out a sense of how everything flowed together and get a sense of that, and then go from that. And then after it get implemented, adjust if it's not smooth or doesn't feel easy for the users. That's another thing. You're doing stuff, you get blind to your own thing, so it becomes really important to watch someone else do it. You know, like you take a game to some conference or whatever, you sit down, someone in front of it, right, and they do stuff. And it's like they're not doing it right, and it's like because you have it, you know. And so it's really, I mean, when you're doing stuff, it's really useful to just let people that haven't had experience with it look at it and get a sense of, you know, what you're blind to. It looks really easy. It's like, oh, you should do that, you dummy, but it's not that obvious. Okay, this is the puzzles and the screen. Yeah. Oh yeah, these are all built by automatically, like the select puzzle, 2 end pieces, and then brass stuff, and so you can size it and do this other stuff, you know, so it automatically build these. And the same with all these, if you look, you can see the wood pattern kind of repeats. So I had a thing where you could just resize these and it would build the outline and all that other stuff. And the other thing was I had all the text in a text file. So we'd send it out to translators, you know, to get us, I think we shipped with French, Italian, and German, right? And I got the German one back, and some of those German words are really long. And so they'd like go way past my brass stuff. And so, I mean, this is close to shipping too, so you have to like scramble and, you know, fix it. Oh yeah, that's the first puzzle. That's actually the first puzzle I did that I used for a lot of testing to do stuff on it. And this is different. On the right-hand side, used to be you click something to make the part bin open up, but the user interface was really clumsy. I mean, it didn't work. And so we reworked it. I thought there's not going to be enough room for the parts here, you know, to do it. But it actually, for the first pass, it worked. It got a lot better. You know, after this one, we learned stuff. Then we added some more. There's like 3 of them, I think we did, and each one got a little better. Oh, and Good Old Games. So I wanted to run it, and I didn't have a copy to run, so I went to Good Old Games and bought my game, and they had the whole collection for like $3. I was like, wow. And I just ran it in a window on Windows. Like, wow. Because I didn't remember some stuff.
You get royalties on your own purchase?
No, someone Disney owns it now. Disney owns the Incredible Machine. I almost got it 3 or 4 years ago. It didn't work out because Disney and the company that did own it had some conflicts. And this was cool. I don't know who did this, but these mouses would just bounce around on the trampolines endlessly, and they wouldn't hit each other. It was like, and they called it mouse ballet, I think. And some kids did this. It was. Okay, so physics. So the physics stuff. I mean, it's just standard physics that you get out of the book. And this is me just figuring out stuff. Everything's polygon, so even the balls and stuff are just an 8-sided, octagon shape. And so I get, Newton helped, co-designed it. I went and got his formulas and just did stuff with him. Yeah, he knew how to do stuff. So, and then I did not have rotations in the first one. Actually, I don't know if any of them. We didn't get to rotation, but it's like the frame rate. I mean, I needed to make it run fast, so I had to cheat and not do certain things. So like the teeter-totter just had 3 positions, like this, if you see them. But the thing was, so it's here, and the teeter-totter wants to go up, but what if there's a ball on top of it, right? What's it do? What if there's multiple balls? So it got really complicated to like, if it moved, I'd do this, and then I'd do forces, these things, and try and move them. But what if there's a wall way up here? And those were headaches that I hadn't thought about when I was first designing, but it's stuff you have to solve. It's like, that's, okay, yeah. So I weighed 152 pounds when I started working on this, and I got down to 138 by the end, and I wasn't fat or anything. I was very skinny. I was working in my basement. It was cold, and I was putting lots of hours just trying to get the thing done. Okay, and I did a lot of research beforehand. I went and got all the densities, all these materials, because I wanted to get real stuff before I cheated and made fake stuff, because, okay, it was not floating point, it's integers, because floating point would be too slow. So instead of degrees or radians, there's 65,536 units in a circle, 360 degrees. So this is, I wrote down, this is the slopes of stuff in hex of all these different things, of the different, and I actually have written down, I think I have a slide that shows it, the slopes on these things. Yeah, so there's the balloon. But if you look, see the 5E up there, that's the actual slope in this format. And then when I wrote the collision code and stuff, it worked really nice because I would do each, when it moved, I'd move one object into it. And I actually was using this that's why I did it. I was debugging and trying to figure out what was going on with them as I did it. And I could throw out half the collision shapes because the way it worked out with the thing, I could like subtract one from the other and look at the high bit if it was set or not set. I could throw out half the stuff and, I want my collision code to be fast. So, the code that's fast is the code you don't have to run. So, okay, integers not float. So 512 was 1 pixel on the screen. So I needed, I mean, they moved on the screen, but I need resolution between pixels. So it was all integer stuff. And then I wrote integer code, and then I wrote sine and cosine integer routines because I needed those things to do stuff. And that was just a table, if you know what I mean. It's just a lookup table to do stuff. And this is each type of part. So it's not a part, it's the actual type, would have like a density, and this is the actual structure that for the part type. So like a bowling ball would have a density, a mass, elasticity, friction, and other stuff connected with it. And function pointers that we call like bounce. So if it bounced, it would call this, it would call a bounce function and bounce off it would do that. And I could override these. So I had a generic bounce function that all the parts could use. But then if they need something special, I would have a different bounce function. The mouse cage probably maybe one where something bounced off it. It would, because the mouse would wake up and start running in the cage and stuff. So let's see, flip function, resize, ropes. And then each part had its own individual. So there may be 3 bowling balls, and each one of them would have this structure in it. It would be stuff that would keep track of all their states, what their current speed is, what their state is, what they're doing. Old screen, to make it fast, I didn't erase or redraw the whole screen. I just kept track of what changed. And since it was double buffering it, I had to keep track of what happened 1 frame ago and 2 frames ago. So I'd draw stuff over things that didn't move, but I'd have saved out the background. Then I'd redraw the background in just the little rectangles of like the bowling balls moving, just where it was, and then redraw the new frame. So I had to keep track of that just for speed, because not powerful machines. And that I was not sure how fast it was going to be, and that was a concern, as I started, because you don't have a sense, how fast is this going to be. And that's ropes and pulleys, had all the different structs. So the ropes and pulleys all talk to each other, and that got really complicated. That's I actually have that one here too, I think. And I was looking at that last night. Yeah, here it is. And I sat down and I when I did this was all in my head. I had this all figured out. So I'm looking at it and tracking it, and this was so I could track it, because you may have a chain of ropes, so parts they're pointing at each other, memory location, they're pointing to the pulleys, and the ropes are pointing, and I have a pointer to each pulley all the way this way and pointers all the way back, and tracking stuff and trying to make it work. And this is, when I'm working on it, I do a sample. I'd set up something and I'd go into the code and look at stuff, and these are actually the memory locations that these things were pointing at here. I had like the rope hooked to an eye hook with a balloon or something, and yeah, and then I went through the code where the scissor cuts it, and then so you can see I'm erasing the pointers, and it's supposed to point to phantom. If there's nothing, the ropes, I always had the rope hooked to something, but I realized when it cut, I need a part that it's hooked to. So I made a phantom part that had no mass, no artwork. So when the rope cut, it reattached itself to this other part, so it could float off and stuff. So, but yeah, this is, part of the process of going through and making this stuff work was, tracking through in the debugger and looking at the numbers and making sure everything's hooking up correctly, all the links. Okay, bitmap. So this is the way we did the bitmaps. The artist would give it to me, and they give me a list. And then what I would do is I'd take it down, and I'd get all the individual shapes, and I had a file for each of the parts here, and I had shape 0, 1, 2, 3, and because of memory concerns, they were as tiny as each could be. So to make them animate correctly, I had to go through and get the offsets of each one of the parts to, draw them correctly on the screen. And oh, this is sound effects. What do we have? We had 21 music scores and 26 sound effects. Yeah, and we had a sound guy, a music guy that would deliver them. Boy, the music guy, I don't know if any of you remember the music, but he did a really good job. Chris Stevens. Yeah, Chris Stevens, and I'm pretty sure it was like 2 or 3 years ago, he won a Grammy Award for something. He moved on, after Dynamic shut down. I mean, he was really talented. It was cool. I mean, I just get this neat stuff. And that was one of the fun things, right? I'm just doing my stuff, design and programming stuff, artists and musicians, and, give me really neat, stuff. Okay, these are the puzzles. And it got really hard to do the puzzles. I'm doing them as I do a new part, and then I do a few puzzles around that part, and then do a new part. And so every few days I'm getting a part and trying to do enough puzzles to ship with. And eventually there's some other names there. Some people in the office actually helped. Oh, there's Jeff, I see. And then one time my son, who was 5 at the time, 4 or 5, he was just playing with it. And he had done a screen with all these gears and all this stuff. And I said, oh, I can use that. So I just took it, removed a few parts, locked everything down, and called it a puzzle. Yeah, I mean, he actually did 2 for me, but I was getting desperate. I mean, it's hard to come up with new puzzles. But one thing that did puzzles is I played around with it a lot. I put a new thing in, and that was one of the fun things doing computer stuff or games is you do stuff, and then magic starts happening on the screen. You can see your own stuff actually working or not, and then play with it. So I get like an interesting interaction between 2 parts, and then I think, oh, I could do a puzzle around that. And then I build a puzzle around that little thing. The puzzles that were best were the aha ones instead of the ones where you had to like just perfectly place stuff. There's some where you had to place them, and those are just not fun. But there's some like, oh, if you just took a rope between these 2 balloons, they pull them a certain way, and it works. And those were the neatest ones, because then people would get a burst of euphoria or something. I mean, they'd play it for a while and say, aha, they'd win. And so this is the first puzzle. Oh, okay, this is the billiard ball thing I was talking about. So I saw this thing, a research paper, and you can actually build a computer out of billiard balls as long as they don't lose any energy when they hit. So that's why the pool balls of this have no gravity. They just sit there, because I wanted to put in an adder, a hardware adder using gates with billiard balls would do stuff. I didn't have time. It would have been too much work. So the billiard balls are in there, but I didn't do the other extra stuff. And that's another thing I wanted to ship.
This is the combination of like the best stretch for a pieces.
Yeah. Yeah. It would have been fun to do. It would have been neat. Okay, this is memory. So this is memory free at the start, 280 kilobytes. And then what I did is I started trying to free memory, because every byte counts. So as you go down here, you can see how much memory I have left as I made slight changes. I made mouse buffers. I don't know what that is. You can change the number of buffers. I allocated the erase recs. I had an array of stuff. If I did it one block instead of a whole bunch of linked lists, I saved a bunch of memory. And it's not much I'm saving if you look at how much they grow by, but every little bit count. And then when it shipped, what I did was I looked at how much memory was on your machine, still free, and I'd throw out stuff. So if you had above, what was it, 595K, you got everything. If there wasn't, I got rid of the little guy going, whew, the sound effect. So depending upon how much, because I wanted to have the minimal amount, I wanted to support as many machines as possible. So I'd throw out stuff. I just wouldn't load it. That was another thing you're worried about, fragmentating memory. So you're allocating it, and then you don't want to free something in here, because it's just you just have a free block, and if there's a bunch of free and free here, you can't grab that much. So you're really thinking at the time allocating or deallocating memory in order, so you're not getting holes in your memory, free memory. And this is the bugs. This is the bug report that would come through. So they would do this. They'd send me bugs from the QA. They'd play it, and I'd see what was going on. Yeah, with this. And I have vague memories. Of, yeah, I know. It's what the game. Yeah. QA people can do stuff you'd never think of, and they'd find stuff. So, and I don't know what this one is. I mean, I had trigger so it hit something, and then what was this? The detonator. What the detonator would do is look and see which line segment of the polygon it hit, and certain ones meant trigger this action, certain one didn't. And I think since it was on the edge, it was like probably hitting the point on the edge, and somehow was thinking it was not hitting it, the top, but the side thing. So they get me this, I go reproduce it. If I can't reproduce it, it's a big problem. So I could go see it, and then I could go in and fix the code. And this one's number 4, so I don't remember getting a whole bunch of bug reports, which was really nice. But they had their whole system here, and
Suggested solution. Don't let cats in.
yeah, usually didn't get suggested solutions because it's code stuff, and they're not. Okay, Pokey the cat. So I named them all. Can you guess why? I bet you're not going to be able to guess these. No. Okay, I was born in '61. Okay, and Gumby. I watched Gumby. Okay, and his horse friend was called Pokey. So Mort the mouse. In the 1920s, I read his stuff on Disney and his whole process because it was just fascinating to see how they did stuff and that stuff. And Mickey was originally a Mortimer the mouse. So I called him, and then they changed the name before the first Steamboat Willie came out. So it was Mort the mouse. And then I got the French translation back, and they changed the name. And if people know French, you probably can. It's like, why'd they change the name of Mort the mouse, right?
That guy.
So, and then I figured it out, and it was Death Mouse. And now I wish we just not changed it. It was the Death. Yeah, it was. Yeah, amusing stuff. There. Oh, and Kelly. And you're not going to get this one at all. Where's my sister? She said thanks when I did it. And that's me. I do not remember that. Where are we at? Okay, so then we shipped it. Got it done in November, so it shipped before Christmas. But Sierra didn't do a push behind it. I don't think they knew what to do, whatever. And they put out an ad right before Christmas, and it said, sure, Sierra makes great games, but we also make nice little stocking stuffers. And that got Jeff really mad because it made it sound like it wasn't. Yeah. So, and it was John Williams, Ken Williams' brother, was a mark. He apologized for that. But somehow, on its own, by word of mouth or something, it just did really well. People liked it, and I don't know how. I mean, they had the ad and stuff. So it did more than Sierra was expecting it to do. And what I had done was I was working on Bots, the Incredible Bots game, after that. And it's this much paper of stuff. I had robots with personalities and the way they interact and all this stuff connecting with the bots. Here's some of the stuff and goals and everything. And it was a lot of stuff I did wrong in Incredible Machine and stuff that I did right that I wanted to do better. And it was a whole bunch of stuff. And that didn't get the go ahead either because they wanted me to do more Incredible Machine because by that point it had started doing. They thought, we can, do some sequels to this and stuff. So, and that was kind of disappointing too because the bots one would have been kind of fun. It was a neat little thing. But so we did even more. I think we added more parts. I don't remember. More parts, maybe more puzzles. Then we did Tim 2, and we remapped the whole interface in that one, I think. And that maybe we added Professor Tim to it as it. And then we did Tim 3, and that was Windows version of it. That was 95. And I remember, and we didn't do much for that. I don't think we did any puzzles. I just basically took the code and made it run in Windows and did WinG and Windows stuff. And yeah, WinG was the first accelerated, you could get that thing to do stuff for you faster in Windows. And it's like, we can't call this Tim 3. We need to do more stuff and everything. But Ken Williams was visiting up in Eugene. He's the guy, his wife did King's Quest for Sierra, and he owned Sierra and started Sierra. And he was nice. He was hands off. He bought Dynamics, and he was really hands off. He said, I bought you guys because of what you do, and I'm going to let you do what you do and not, he had to green light projects and stuff, but he was really hands off. But he came up and sat down, with the thing, and he just moved the mouse and did stuff for a couple times. He said, yeah, Tim 3's fine. It's like, yeah, he just wants to ship it and stuff. And I worked this out. I wish I'd done this earlier. This was the interactions between parts that I figured out. Like the sight part, the sight to movement, and that would be that little arrow between sight and move. If you see it, that is the mount. That would be, the cat seeing the mouse. So a cat sees a mouse, so by sight it moves. And so all the different parts, I mean, I could take each part in the game and assign it to one of these arrows of how they interact with each other. And I didn't do this till like, this is actually the Incredible Bots thing, but I sat down and I started thinking about what I had done on the Incredible Machine and how they interact, because basically the more interaction you have, the more richer it can get. So you want arrows between all this stuff. So when I was doing the bots one, I started looking at where there was arrows and where there weren't, you know, and what part can I create that would make that type of interaction. And so this was really helpful to figure stuff out in that one. And I never retroactively went back and did it with Tim. Okay, so this is the whole set. We did the Tim one, and then they did the weird box, the second one over, that the stores hated. There's some other box at the store, okay, there was like a time, this would be 93 maybe, there was like stores would have some weird boxes, and they thought, oh, that would be cool, we'll make a box that it opened, you pull the cat's tail and the box comes up and everything, but it was such a weird shape that the computer stores and, you know, software stores didn't like putting it on the shelf. It's like, you know, it was like, I got it, oh, this is really cool and stuff. But they didn't, and I don't have the other one. They replaced that one really fast with a new box that did, you know, other stuff. And then this one, and I'm missing one in here. And then the final one was the Incredible Machine number 3 there. And then jump ahead. So let's see, that was 95. And then we did one in 2000, Contraptions. And I did a design for Contraptions in 2000. And I was working on it, and I was just starting to do coding, and my son was born with liver failure, and so he had a liver transplant at 4 months, and we spent a year in San Francisco hospital with him, and it was like 5 years at the hospital. I mean, it was a year at the hospital pretty much, and so I'm not doing game dev, obviously, right? And it was 5 years of in and out before he kind of stabilized and stuff. So they didn't do my Contraptions design stuff. Other people took over and they just reskinned Tim 3. I mean, I looked at it and there's not new stuff. I mean, and if you have it, I don't think there's new puzzles in there. They changed the look of it and stuff, but they didn't do really a lot of other stuff. So 95, I did my last one. And then I moved to California from Oregon and worked long distance with them on other projects. And they did Contraptions, and that would have been 99, 2000. And then 2013 or so, Jeff said, we should do an update of the Incredible Machine. Jeff had started a company called Spotkin in Eugene. And he did some mobile games and the App Store, you know how it was flooded. And he did one and it just didn't catch on because there's so much. And he said, let's just redo this one. So we did it. We were going to do Stream. Greenlight was going to start up. And the Steam guys are really nice. They said, you guys don't have to do Greenlight. You can just come on. So it was like, oh, cool. Oh, that's one thing. Everyone knows Steam? I mean, most everyone, right? Okay, Gabe and Mike Harrington. Mike was at Dynamics. He founded Steam with Gabe, and he was at Dynamics 88, 89. He was with us for a couple of years before he went off to Microsoft. And then he went, you know, and he did Steam. And then I think after he did Half-Life, he like spent 5 years in a boat going around in the ocean because he made so much money. You know, it's like, plus he got burned out, I think. I mean, from what I heard, Half-Life was really intense, and they're going to do Half-Life 2, and he did not want to go through that grind again. And I don't know how many millions he made, but it makes it a lot easier not to have to go through a grind. So anyway, we did Contraption Maker, and so I used Chipmunk engine with that. That's a new engine, like Box 2D. It's really nice physics, you know, so it's done for me. And I ended up converting that to integer from floating point, partly to make stuff run the same on all, because, you know, floating point on all the different chips, are they all going to be the same? Theoretically, everything's going to be the same. But if something bounces just a little bit differently, right, it's just going to diverge. It's the butterfly. It's just going to diverge like crazy. So they had to be exactly right. And the other thing was, with floating point, if you have, like, you could build this little subsystem of stuff and you have it near the origin. And to simplify, like near the origin, you may have a resolution of 0.0001 maybe, right? But if you move it quite a ways away from the origin, since the point floats in the math, it might be 0.001 instead of all the zeros. So it's going to run completely different if you cut and paste stuff. So you could cut and paste a set of parts and put it here, and it runs completely different. And so I went through the Chipmunk physics engine, and I changed everything to integers from floats. that was a month and a half of hell. It was, because you're going through and figuring out. Basically, that one 65,536 was equal to 1. So that gave me my resolution. It's enough for the physics to make it run and look okay. And then look familiar. It's just, the thing is, and they're so powerful. It's like, it was cool. I didn't have to sweat a lot of the optimization stuff. I mean, I still kind of do it, but just because my history, I started with 6502, trying to make stuff as fast as I could in that. So I still do that stuff, but it's so cool to not worry about memory or all this other stuff, so you can focus more on this. But this is just a tiny one. You can make huge machines, and they just run really fast. And real ropes, I faked the ropes in The Incredible Machine. That's just a spline. All I had was slack. So if there was slack in the rope, I'd just draw a curve. I knew the slack and I knew the 2 endpoints, and then I'd use that slack to create a spline curve to fake how the rope did its stuff. But here I did real rope physics. I did real physics with the rope affecting itself, so it does really neat ropey things when you do it. This is Wonderstrucks. This is a DLC I did on Steam, and the guy that worked on Contraption Maker with me, he moved on to a different company, but with his brother. These are actually, is coming out soon. This was last November. These are actually these wooden things that you can build, that you could hook up on your wall and have marbles that go forever and stuff. And I was visiting up there last November, and I saw the thing, and I said, hey, can I take that, put it in my game? It's like, sure. So this is the Wonderstruck. So you can make these endless ball things. And he gave me the CAD stuff that they did for the actual parts, and I matched them up. So this actually is just the exact thing that he did in real life. And he did a Kickstarter, and it's coming out. And unlike some Kickstarters, he's coming out on time. It's next month, and I bought one. So let's see. JavaScript. We also had a JavaScript to Contraption Maker. We have an editor, and we have JavaScript in there, and we have a way that it hooks up to the parts, so you can talk to the parts and do stuff. So this is a pinball machine, and this is the little JavaScript code, and you can control the flippers, so you can actually do a you could do a really fancy pinball machine. Someone did a JavaScript game where the little guy, we call him, the first little guy we had was called Mel. That's Lemmings backwards, L-E-M. Because he was like Lemmings, the little guy. And someone actually did an adventure game with the alligator and all the parts in Contraption Maker, where you actually control the little guy with the arrow keys and jump and dodge lasers and stuff. You could build it's JavaScript, you could build a whole game in JavaScript using these parts and stuff. We had an interface to it. And I think that was it. Yeah. So, any questions or anything? It's kind of cool. I came here and they have all those posters up.
You mentioned Incredible Bots and Vivarium as two of your kind of really wanted to do projects that never came to. Are those your top 2 ever? Or
yeah, Bots is coming. Yeah. Bots is coming because Contraption Maker. Take Contraption Maker, I'll copy the whole code structure into a different folder. I'll call it Bots or something. I'll go in and throw out a bunch of stuff, and then I'll just start implementing the new stuff because I got the system in place. I did all that work to make that integer engine. Be able to reuse what you've done, especially if you've sweated really hard to do it. It's really nice to be able to use that technology in other projects. So yeah, Bots is on my list soon. I don't know how soon is, and Vivarium, I really love to do that one. It's a lot of work. I need a whole bunch of artists and stuff to do it, so it's one that I need to do really well financially in other ways, or have someone fund it and stuff. It's on my list to do. In fact, when I was tweeting out some of these pictures the last week, as I was scanned a ton of stuff. I have boxes and boxes. Because yesterday I did one of 40 years of game dev, and I have all these slides. So I went to my basement, and it's just all these boxes of old docs because I saved almost everything. And I saw and I had the Vivarium one. It's so I scanned that and tweeted it out, and within 10 minutes, Jeff Tennell said, that one really needs to be done. And actually, Jeff's the guy, because he's an entrepreneur. Jeff started Dynamics with Damon, and I joined a few months later as partners, and that got sold to Sierra. Of course, we would have gone bankrupt, I think, if we hadn't sold this because of the stuff. And then, he founded garage games, and Barry Diller bought that company for $50 million. And then he founded Spotkin, and a couple years later, Disney bought that one for a few $1,000,000. So Jeff, he's the entrepreneur type. And he has a good design sense too. And he's kind of like, I remember Walt Disney was kind of described like a bee that pollinates stuff, goes between flowers, and with ideas. And Jeff's kind of like that too. He does it. So maybe I can get Jeff involved to do the stuff that I don't like or not good at stuff. Yeah.
I would like to talk a little bit about the puzzle design.
Okay, yeah.
Because it seemed like, I only played a little bit of the first game. I actually didn't know about it until it was the theme.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah. No, the first time I actually played the Treasure Maker was actually at the MAGLabs warehouse on the street.
Okay.
And a little bit about the Treasure Machine, it seemed like, at least earlier on the puzzles, the parts you had available, you had to use all of them. And
Yeah.
eventually, to the point where you try to get those red herring parts of like, you have these extra things that you could use. Yeah.
Yeah.
And but of course, considering what you talked about, how these things interact with other things, some of the puzzles, I don't know, at least the early ones, you're like, okay, I'm going to use this part.
Yeah.
2 places, other parts of you have like 7.
Yeah.
But I don't know, it's. I don't know what I'm going with this. But I don't know of how you choose the red herrings, because I don't know, some puzzles like really easy, it doesn't belong.
Yeah.
But,
Yeah, and it got tough. I mean, I have the list here. This is.
I don't know, it's also fun.
So these are all the puzzles that,
seeing, when you get the solution and you realize you used half, or cheese it and only use one object.
Yeah, and see, that's the thing too. It's like, I mean, the thing is, you come up with your own solutions. Like the official one, I don't remember. Did we show the official one if you solved it or not? I don't. In 2, yeah. See, that's what we learned. The first one was a learning process and stuff. And these are all the puzzles, and there's multiple numbers on here because I wrote them down, as I did them. And then what I did before we shipped this, I went through all the puzzles and I organized them. I rearranged them, trying to go from easiest to hardest and stuff. And it's a learning process too, because I'm doing the puzzles. The first, well, you got the tutorial ones, and I'm doing puzzles, and then it's like once you do stuff, you get a little better and a little better at it. So I think the later puzzles started getting better just because I was learning how to do it. It's like, oh, I want a red herring here and stuff. And then you'd have some puzzles that were like these really lots of stuff that was going on. I remember one, but so you want to try and give stuff that you didn't anticipate pass. So they could use this or that in a way you don't anticipate. So you're trying to stick stuff that it's going to work for them. But I remember one really involved one, and maybe it's out, and someone came up and took a little piece of cheese and put it right here and hit go, and it solved it without all the other stuff. And I mean, that's one of the pitfalls of it. And tried to design around that. I tried to design around easy cheats like that, but put in there a way that you could have your cool aha that was a nice chain thing that wasn't what I had planned myself.
The cheat I got was you had like one rocket or something, and I just used one magnifying glass.
Yeah.
Like, oh, look.
But I was tired. It was getting. I mean, I was having weird dreams and stuff. I mean, one night I woke up. I got up and I said to my wife, I said, these sheets aren't formatted correctly, like a floppy disk drive stuff. I was just, it was intense. We'd called it like what we called it, 7-month, 8-month sprint, because I was just working hard all the time trying to get it done. It was just a small group, and it was just me doing the coding and most of the puzzles and stuff. So, but yeah, it's, yeah.
What was one of the more interesting parts
Oh, well, I remember the water one. I'd have to look at my list to see. The water one, I think I had, let's see what I got on here, see if I can remember. Should I ask anyone interested if I put this up as a PDF, the design and stuff? I'll put it at that same link when I get back home. If I ever make it home, I drove up to Eugene to fly here from near Yosemite, California, and there's a huge fire that closed Interstate 5. I drove up Thursday to catch my flight, and Wednesday afternoon it said there's a fire 2 acres near I-5, and I'm thinking, oh good, I'm safe. And the next day it grew to 20,000 acres. And I-5 is closed. That's amazing. So I had to take this big long detour to get there. So let's see. Candle. I didn't have levers in there. I didn't have a rain cloud. Oh, water stuff. I had I had rain cloud. I didn't do that. A sponge, water stuff. Yeah, so some of the water things would have been kind of fun to do. And I actually have in Contraption Maker, I have a list of part ideas to stick in there to do. It's I should get that thing I had and look and see what, Oh, I want to do sound ones. I didn't have any sound ones. Something makes a sound and there's something that detects a sound, right? And I didn't do that because that's just another system, but I could have something that has a sound detector. So if it detects a sound for that part, and then I can have it trigger whatever that part wants to do. So it'd just be a little component I can make. I'll probably do that in Contraption Maker.
Scare an animal.
Yeah, an explosion stuff, and they could run away or do stuff. So yeah, so stuff like that.
Yeah, I guess it's really cool to see you talk about support comedy, how people so positive to make ALUs out there.
Yeah, that's happened in Contraption Maker. Right? We put lasers in it, and they made an 8-bit adder with lasers. They had 8-bit lasers, and you turn these on and other stuff, and then out at the bottom it would give you the result of, was it adding them together, right? It was an adder, yeah. And it would give you the result down here with the laser at the bottom. And I was just like, whoa.
LQ laser.
Yeah. Any more? Oh, sure.
Really different sort of track. When you did Incredible Machine, you were developing the engine, you were also designing the concept for it. With some of the earlier stuff you did with dynamics like Heart of China and Rise of the Dragon, you were, I think, based on what it sounded like, that you were making the engine for other people to use. I'm curious what the difference and challenge was between making something for other people to design versus having total control.
Yeah, that was Dynamics Game Development System. At Sierra bought us, we had a budget. Jeff wanted to do adventure games. And so it was like, they had the Sierra ones, we tie stuff, and point and click. Point and click would be really nice to do. So I worked on getting a point and click thing with the, if you played any of the 3 Heart of China. I'm in Heart of China. I'm the Hong Kong official, the officious one, the one you exit. So I did point and click stuff, with that. And I just talked with Jeff. I mean, I'm in the office there with him. And so it's like, he'd had his design stuff, and I'm making it work for what he wants to do with that. I'm trying to make it really clean. And I'm also, on that end, you're also trying to make it so the other people at Dynamics can use it. Because lots of times, when you come into that point, the programmers have a lot of control of what's going on in design and stuff. But in that one, we set it up so the conversation branches and the trees and all the hooks and all the other stuff could be in the hands of other people that weren't tech. And so, but yeah, it was talking with Jeff and what he needed to do and making it work. And that was kind of fun doing it. But I wanted to do my own games too. So did that. By Willie Beamish, I was kind of out of it. We got the first one in place and stuff. But yeah, Jeff was a big creative influence on those ones. So there's just a lot of interaction between him and me to get it working. Okay. Thank you. And thanks for getting up early. People were up late last night. I was hearing loud music.
Thanks so much.
Sure, thanks.